Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Badolato. I'm a general pediatrician, um, and your teacher, Yahya, asked if I could give a presentation today about some of my experiences. They understand that this class covers many of the concerns and health issues of refugee healthcare, and I wanted today to just go over some of my experiences. What I'm going to do is show you a quote, show you some information about Haiti, and then I'm going to show you a brief slideshow. A lot of the images you're going to see are somewhat graphic. I took out some of the worst ones, but there still are pictures that understandably would make someone feel quite alarmed or sad. Alright, so this is In Solidarity, my experiences serving the underserved. This is me. So not the best looking guy in the world, but this is me in Haiti, in a region called Carrefour, in 2010. Here's a quote for you. I don't believe in charity. I believe in solidarity. Charity is vertical. It goes from the top to the bottom. Solidarity is horizontal. It respects the other person. I have a lot to learn from other people. That was written by a writer from Uruguay named Eduardo Galeano. And I'm going to touch on the idea of solidarity multiple times as I go through these pictures and this experience. So just keep that in mind. Charity is vertical, it humiliates. Solidarity is horizontal, it empowers. And we want to empower the communities in which we are working. We want to empower the health workers who are native to the countries in which we work. And I want you to keep that in mind as we go through the rest of this. So let's talk about the country of Haiti, some of the realities that existed before the earthquake struck on January 12, 2010. If we look at the UN Development Index, Haiti is very close to the bottom. Out of 169 countries, it actually ranks 145th. This was before the earthquake. And that makes it the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. There are a number of countries in sub-Saharan Africa that are considered even poorer than Haiti. Approximately 85% of the population of Haiti lives in slum conditions or in very poorly constructed concrete buildings. Unlike a developed country such as Japan, where earthquakes occur quite frequently, and there's pretty much all of Tokyo has been built to withstand earthquakes. Port-au-Prince and surrounding areas didn't have any construction like this. The quality of the construction, the concrete, was extremely poor and not reinforced. About half of Haitians lack access to latrines. About a third of Haitians do not have access to running water. And most of them, we'll say 75% of Haitians, live on less than $2 per day to meet all of their needs. So at approximately 4 p.m. on the afternoon of January 12, 2010, a 7.0 Richter scale earthquake struck very close to Port-au-Prince in Haiti. This was followed by a number of weeks of aftershocks, which were varying degrees of strength. The destruction was unimaginable, and I'm going to go into some pictures of that. So what we had briefly is a country with many issues before this happened, and a lot of chronic poverty issues, which I'll go into during my slideshow. that were compounded by an emergency of enormous proportions. So numbers really don't tell the whole story, but I would like to go over some numbers. At least 220,000 people were killed. Many of them were never recovered. They were crushed. Over 300,000 people in and around Port-au-Prince were injured. About 3.5 million Haitians were affected, whether that was loss of home, injury, loss of business. And at least 1.5 million Haitians were left without a home. 4,000 schools were destroyed, and it's important. I'm going to show you some pictures of that. These schools were poorly constructed of concrete, large open rooms, and because there are not enough schools for all the students, usually the classes are given in shifts. You'll have a morning shift and afternoon shift. So when the earthquake struck, there were still thousands and thousands of students in the classrooms, and many of these buildings simply pancaked the ceiling and floors on itself, and crushed, very sadly, the students who were inside. And at least 600,000 homes were destroyed in Haiti. Starting with the crisis of the earthquake, there were both short-term and long-term crises that took place. You had a peak of about 1.5 million Haitians who lived in refugee camps, and these are the tent cities that you saw on the news, and we'll go into it in some of the pictures. Obviously, this is not adequate shelter. You have exposure to the sun in a very hot country. You have storms. You have floods. You have a lack of sanitation. Where do these people, use the bathroom? Where are they getting potable water from? And on top of that, you have traumatic stress. Most of the people in this area lost multiple family members and friends, many injuries, and traumatic stress. Even people that had places where they could go inside, many of the structures still standing were unsafe because of the subsequent aftershocks that could cause the buildings to fall over. And even people that could go into their homes were so traumatized that they were afraid to, understandably, after having seen so many other people killed during the earthquake. And the slideshow I'm going to show you is about right after the earthquake, when I was there. But another issue I'd like to talk about is, although we haven't been watching much news about Haiti recently, the issues still persist. There has been some international help, but it hasn't been enough. Our attention span as American TV viewers is frequently very brief. In October of 2010, so we're talking 9.5 months after the initial earthquake, we still had thousands and thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, living in these refugee camps. And a cholera epidemic, believed to have been accidentally brought in by some relief workers, struck. And I'll go into cholera later, but it spreads with fecal contamination of water, and when you have a large amount of people that are in a very confined area with poor sanitation, a disease like cholera can spread extremely rapidly, and over 200,000 people were affected with cholera, and approximately 5,000 to 6,000 Haitians died of cholera. And the main way that people die of cholera is extreme dehydration, and we'll go into that later. What I'd like to do, you can see me fumbling around the internet right here, is to show you a slideshow, and some of these pictures are really sad and some of them are happy. What I did witness is a wonderful spirit from the Haitian people. I got some waterborne diarrhea illness that kept me in a bed for for 3 or 4 days getting IV fluids. Lost a good amount of weight, which is good for me. But while I was lying in bed, I was listening to Haitians singing in the street, songs of praise and things like that. And their spirit, despite the horrible things that have happened, is truly truly amazing. So this is a bunch of us. This is us going to the clinic. I'm going to pass through some of the photos. There's an outdoor market at the border crossing. I'm going to try to move this camera in a little bit. There you go. I wasn't an IT major. Took about 12 hours to get there. We landed in the Dominican Republic, and we took a truck into Haiti, and the smell of decay, but also the diesel fumes that was pretty overwhelming. I have lived and worked in multiple developing nations, but still the amount of devastation was something I had never seen before. The young lady in the yellow below me is Sarah, who's a nursing student, who's the age of some of you guys, and she really came in and welcomed learning and really pitched in a great way. It was very, very inspiring. There's a street vendor selling medications without really knowing what she was buying. We have a beautiful beautiful country. Despite the abject poverty, it really is a beautiful country, and again, beautiful people. This is our group putting together medications. I'm the one with my hand up, bossing people around. This is what happens when overweight Americans sit in the back of a truck. We're counting pills out. Another view. This is a port in Port-au-Prince. So the local kids selling some fish. Some of these don't need it. These are, we talked about solidarity. So one of the ways we were able to do our trip was that we worked with community members in the Dominican Republic and in Haiti. These are two, Luis, our driver, is the shorter man, and Hector, who's a young pastor in the Dominican Republic, and they, in addition to driving us to Haiti, really helped to coordinate our trip, and we could not have been able to do what we did without their help. So here's the island of Hispaniola. So if we look, the eastern side is the Dominican Republic, where we landed, and you have mountains in the center, and then you have Haiti here, and Port-au-Prince is down right here. So understandably, the airports and ways to get in other than by sea were all shut down in Port-au-Prince. So we landed in Santiago in the Dominican Republic, and we took a long journey to get to Haiti. This is our group. There was an engineer from the United States that worked with us. He developed a way that you have these bags that were full of kind of a sugary, kind of dehydrated Gatorade, and the membrane of the bags allowed an osmosis effect where you could throw these bags in any water source, even if it wasn't clean, like this pool, and the water from that source would slowly be filtered and enter the bag, and the membrane he had developed actually allowed people to get a bag of clean water, pretty much like getting a Gatorade in a bag. I don't know how he did this, but it was genius, and we gave out thousands of these bags that helped to rehydrate children and adults during our trip. I had the distinct privilege of being the only one who spoke Spanish in our group, so here I am trying to talk to our driver, who again was an awesome guy. Communication is extremely important, obviously. So here's some of the sadder pictures. This is a 3-story school building. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the earthquake hit, and because of the poorly constructed concrete and the magnitude of the earthquake, this building just collapsed on itself. This is the roof, the second floor, the first floor, and the students inside as you can imagine, were crushed. Potable water, a huge thing. In addition to the earthquake, and something that is an ongoing problem in Haiti, but particularly after the earthquake, this is a stream of water, but it's mixed with sewage. These people were not dirty. You know, if there was a water source in the street, people would line up to bathe, and they were amazingly clean, including the people that cooked our meals for us. And I have no idea how they stayed that clean despite these conditions. But as much as they did their very best, this water still set them up for not only things like cholera later on in October, as I talked about before, but also a number of parasites, a number of other bacteria that cause diarrhea, and children are the most likely to get these kind of diseases. This is a home just completely destroyed. This is a school, and again, sad pictures. This was a school that lost 300 students who were inside the building when the earthquake struck. We worked mostly in an area called Carrefour, which is right outside of Port-au-Prince. The people were eternally hopeful. There were some people recovered while we were there, but people really were still looking for their loved ones amid the rubble, as all of us would do, holding on to any bit of hope they could. This is another school building. Again, this is a school building in Carrefour that completely collapsed. So, remember we talked about that in addition to, sorry about the little things on the screen, remember we talked about that before the earthquake took place, there was a lot of poverty and issues in Haiti. Well, if you look at these children, they have intestinal parasites. They also have something called kwashiorkor syndrome, which is when you don't have enough protein in your diet. You'll notice that they get these large bellies, and you can see it best on this child. So a lot of parasite infections, but also kwashiorkor, where they're not getting enough protein, and that causes their bellies to swell. This was at an orphanage, and I talked about the Haitian people we worked with were absolutely wonderful people. I'll talk about Cami, the young doctor I worked with. But this was one example where we were upset with the locals, and there was an orphanage run where the orphans, about half of them had been killed, but the orphans that we saw had evidence of chronic malnutrition. This doesn't happen, right after an earthquake, obviously, and these children have been neglected for quite some time. And the people in charge of the orphanage actually were well fed, and their children were well fed, and it was a very, very sad dichotomy. So a lot of these kids, the poor sanitation, the pinworm, these are things that they had prior to the earthquake, and it just made everything worse. Not to be crude, you see this child is itching their backside. Pinworm, for example, is easy to spread. Endermobius, I think it's called. This kid will scratch himself, then he'll touch food, or he'll touch one of the other kids, and it will spread very quickly through this orphanage. Another school. Again, the concrete structures were a problem. Most of these pictures were taken by Matthew Luce. He's a registered nurse from out west. I didn't take them. You might notice me in the pictures, but I'm a terrible photographer. He did a fantastic job really documenting what was going on. You can see the car behind him was completely destroyed, and you can just imagine what the people inside had to deal with. This is our first day, and we're just driving in to Port-au-Prince. Behind me is Louise Lewis. She was my interpreter, and we talked about solidarity. The most important people in our group were the people the Haitians that we worked with. Louise, this is another Haitian helping us, and Cami, the young doctor we work with. because when we left, they were the ones who were going to stay, and our ability to communicate with them, to teach them, to encourage them, and to continue to supply them was the most important thing, because we were going to leave. This is a child with a ringworm infection, and this is not something after the earthquake. This is something these children have had for many years, and we saw a combination of, you know, wounds, broken bones, things like that from the earthquake, but also more than half of what we saw was from chronic poverty. This child has extreme failure to thrive from malnutrition, and you know, was more than 10 pounds underweight, even though she was only 9 months old. These are just kids that want to be kids. They want to play. They want to get attention. And again, my interpreter Luis over here, and the black male you'll see in another picture named Hugo. Louise and Hugo were some of the most you know, wonderful parent-like figures these children had seen in quite a long time. I'll point him out. There's Louise holding a kid, and this is Hugo, and he really did an unbelievable job with these children, and they all wanted him to be their father and for Louise to be their mother, and you can just imagine. These kids had, in addition to many of them having pinworm, many of them having kwashiorkor, which is a protein deficiency. They had diarrheal illnesses. Just their overall calories were low also, close to starvation. And none of them had any reserve. There was a 6-month-old who died while we were there, who had been had a pneumonia that had persisted for a few weeks before we actually got there. Luis and I are trying to get this little girl to take some fluids. When you have a diarrheal type illness, you don't want to give them just water. You want to give them oral rehydration therapy, and that's a mix of a certain amount of clean water with a little bit of sugar and a decent amount of sodium chloride, and that's to replete the electrolytes they're losing when they're having diarrhea. These are some of the tent cities that we went into. This is a line for water. You can imagine something that we all take for granted, myself included. You know, in the shower and flushing the toilet and drinking was not something that was easy to come by. Still a lot of hope. This is a sign in the back. You could say it says "Help us, Obama." People looking for family members. This is another view of the tent cities. This is just a map of Haiti. Another car that was completely destroyed with the people inside. This picture, if you look at it, this is the government building, the main government building, and it was completely destroyed. One of the important things we talked about solidarity is to work with community leaders. In this case, the government wasn't really present at the time. However, we were able to link up with local leaders, people that ran missions, things like that, and that was vitally important. Whether that was getting to get interpreters, to get supplies, for us to get lodging, for safety, for getting order, and also just communicating with them. What are the needs of this region? What do you guys need? If we come in with one agenda and the local people and the local leaders have other priorities, well, we really need to listen to them. We can't come in and tell them what to do. We need to identify what are their needs. So the overall government wasn't there, but we were able to work with local leaders, community leaders, and that was vitally important. This is one of our clinics, and this young lady you see in the green, her name is Cami. She's a lot younger than me. Probably doesn't have the same amount of medical training, but she, again, was much more important than I was. First of all, she volunteered for 2 weeks to work with us for nothing. Second of all, she is Haitian, and she's going to stay here and help this community, and is there doing that right now. And it's easy for a Westerner to go in and say, "Well, I know more. I have more years of experience." Blah blah blah. But the reality is, Cammie was the most important person, because what I could teach her, or there was an older doctor who had a lot more experience than I did, could teach her, was extremely important, because we would help a finite amount of people while we were there, but she would go on and help others, and she would go on and teach others, and she was a vital part of our team, and very appreciated. And that's, the biggest part of solidarity is really working with the community, working with the leaders of the community, working with other health professionals in the community. This is a clinic we put up with, just tents. The kids still want to be kids no matter what's going on. These are some of the nurses doing an outstanding job, and the interpreters helping them. That's my friend Reese, who's a nurse, and her interpreter, and helping some people. This is funny. This young lady is from Ireland, and he has a "Kiss Me, I'm Irish" shirt. These are two of our interpreters who did an outstanding job. This is Cammie, a young doctor, and Louise helping me interpret, and me writing out I don't remember, probably a script or something. It was important when I landed in the Dominican Republic, because I'm able to speak Spanish fluently. That was very helpful. As soon as we crossed into Haiti, where they speak Haitian Creole and they understand French, I was not helpful at all. I was completely reliant on Louise, and it was a good experience for me to realize that. And there are a lot of undocumented immigrants in our country that where language is a huge barrier, and many of them are refugees. Having someone who was patient and helpful to me, like my interpreter Louise, was vitally important. I could not have done any of the things I was able to do there without her. There's me being a clown. Some of the local bathrooms that we used. People of all walks of life, all different ages. We got to see. This is Sarah, who's a student who did an outstanding job. Really pitched in wherever she was needed. We're actually suturing up a middle-aged man's leg that was cut during the earthquake. There we go. Our clinic. Again, this is Dr. Cammie, who's a Haitian, who really did an outstanding job helping us. This child has marked malnutrition. I saw him. If you were to look at his ribs and the rest of his body, he has that kwashiorkor syndrome. And his mother had actually gone about 2 weeks without eating anything, just to have him have some food, and that was not uncommon there. This is Matt, who not only took pictures but also did a great job administering to patients. This is Cindy, who is a nurse from the States, who also did an outstanding job. Really has a lot of compassion. And this is our pharmacy. All right, so this is scabies. You'll see this in the United States if you do pediatrics. But this is this young guy had scabies all over his body. We treat it with a cream called permethrin, but if you don't have that available and you have it for months, it will spread throughout your body. This is just something with people going out of their way to be clean, but having limitations to what's available. Usually it starts in between the kind of the webbing of the fingers, and this particular kid, it spread all over. So the pictures you see here these are chronic issues associated with poverty that we saw. This kid had ringworm which again you'll still start in little circular, shiny areas, but can really spread over enormous areas if it's not treated. And he had some bacterial infections where he had scratched. As you can imagine, it really bothers him. Went in some of the tent cities. These people were just wonderfully inspiring. This kid had his leg crushed. This is scabies again. It's the same kid. My interpreter and myself taking a little break. This is Julie in our pharmacy, and the pharmacist we had was from Missouri. He had never been out of the country before, I don't think, and he did his name was Jeff. He did an outstanding job, really putting everything together, and really became very close to the people he served. This is Nancy, a nurse from the States, who did an awesome job. This mother, again, hadn't been eating so that her daughter could have some food. This is a wound that has become infected. This is Jeff, our pharmacist. Really was inspiring to me. He's a young father, and he really treated each and every kid, as if they were his kids. This is Matt. Luce is a registered nurse. He did the most of the photography, as well as Jeff, and also did some great nursing. And here's me, who can't do photography. So we talked about those little packets of like Gatorade type things. This little girl got one of those, and her smile is so beautiful. This man, he actually was one of the local Haitians who helped us. He ran a center where we stayed, where we were safe. He helped us coordinate to find lodging, but also to get interpreters and to help keep order and to find out which communities needed help the most. And he's also a loving and dedicated father, as you can see. So again, solidarity. So I showed you a lot of sad things. The smiles of the children were amazing. This girl had her leg damaged, broken and crushed, actually. This mother, again, had gone weeks without eating. Cindy, one of the nurses, had invented the peanut butter taco, which is what they're eating, just to give them some protein, which was a good idea. Kids still like to clown around. It's one of our interpreters. These are our interpreters from the community, and this is obviously during a lighter time, but they did a fantastic job helping us out. This is a wedding that took place, believe it or not. 2 little girls. Everybody likes to take their photo. This is Jeff, our pharmacist. They were enthralled with his hair. Well, these kids, it looks like a silly picture, but they had they're living in one of the tent cities, and the only toy they had was a plastic bag that was attached to some sticks to make a makeshift kite. And they made another one. They put a metal can on a string and kept trying to get me to try to pick it up, and they pulled it away. Again, abject poverty, but these kids just want to be kids. They're welcoming, they're friendly, and they just want to play like normal 7-year-olds. This is the kite that they made out of trash. Sisters. Beautiful smile. That's Julie, a member of our group with some of the children. Is Jeff dancing with an older woman? It's a beautiful picture of Jeff and one of the little kids. This is near a beach. I took this picture just because I couldn't believe that someone could balance that on their head. This is Luis, our driver, and his wife. Mother and daughter. This is in the tent cities. The people were always curious and wanted to come out and see what was going on. This is me getting a diarrheal illness, getting fluids from Cindy. This is Nurse Matthew looking like he's about to die. He did not. I'm not going to explain that. We did have a 1 day off that we went to a beach. A half a day off. This is our group. My friend Reese, who's a nurse, actually treated a dog that was injured. Here's me sleeping. And Jeff got sick also, so we took turns. Here I'm starting an IV on him. And there I'm getting an IV. That one may have been edited. So these pictures are obviously from the mission we stayed at during some downtime. Alright, that's it. So the most important things I guess I'd say from this is we have to look at the needs of the population, what they're identifying as needs. And we need to work with the community. Whether that's other health professionals, whether that's local religious leaders, local government officials, and really find out what do they need, what are their issues, what are their biggest concerns. Solidarity is working with them. If we go in and we say, look, these are your problems, we're going to do this, and then we leave, we really haven't done much for them. The most ideal situation is to work with refugees or developing countries and to help empower them, and to the point that they don't need us. And that may be years away, and in this case it is, but working with people and empowering them. And I always like to tell people, knowledge is not a consumable commodity. You know, if your teacher Yahya borrows $50 from me, I am $50 poorer. But if Yahya teaches me something, you know, he has to know it very well, and he'll teach it to me, and I'll learn it, and we'll both know it. And always remember that what we know and what we all have a lot left to learn, as do I. But what we learn, we can share with others, and it's free. It doesn't go away, and being able to share our skills and our knowledge set, and also to listen and to learn from other cultures and other people, allows us all to become not only closer but also better able to handle challenges. So I hope that was helpful. And again, I apologize for the low quality of the presentation. I'm not an IT person, but I hope that was helpful. All right, that's the end of part 1. Take care.